Today we're spending the night in Kurt Cobain's first apartment that he shared with Tracy Marander. And when Dave Grohl joined the band, this is where he stayed too when he first joined Nirvana. So let's go inside and check it out. This place is actually considered a triplex. There's 3 apartments in here, and Kurt lived in all 3. It said that he's wrote 70% of all of his music inside of this house. There's a couple of nods to Kurt Cobain right outside with the hello, 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 how low. And then this is my favorite picture of Kurt Cobain, and they have it out front. It's so awesome. Let me get out of the sun is not cooperating with me on this trip. And today we're spending the night in apartment 2 right here. And they have quite a few nods to Kurt in here. And here's his kitchen. I couldn't figure out how to turn the light on, but let's see. Oh, there we go. So this is Kurt Cobain's kitchen. There's actually a perfect picture of him standing. That's him standing right in the corner of this kitchen, back when he lived here with girlfriend Tracy Marander. And right over here we got a picture of the Melvin, which was the tour van of the band the Melvins. This is great because Kurt was really good friends with the Melvins. He actually roadied for him, and he famously decorated the outside of the van, probably most notably by drawing the band Kiss on the outside. And not only did the Melvins drummer Dale Crover play with Nirvana, but when Dave Grohl left his band Scream, he called Melvin's frontman Buzz Osborne and asked if he knew anybody looking for a drummer. He gave him Kurt's number, and the rest is Generation X history. And over here on the refrigerator it says Kurt was here. Here's a flyer for a Nirvana show at the Seattle Center Coliseum. I spy a Sub Pop bottle. Of course, Sub Pop was the label that Nirvana released their first album on, Bleach, which is right there. Alright, making our way into the living room. There's a awesome pillow with Chris, Kurt, and Dave on it, and books about Kurt. They even leave out a guitar for you to play. There's artwork and that doll head photo from out front that we saw earlier. And I really like this shadow box. There's a ticket stub in there, Nirvana ticket stub, a guitar pick, and a couple of pictures of Kurt, along with the sheet music from the Nirvana song About a Girl, which is a very important song when it comes to this triplex apartment that we're in right now. Now, when Kurt first moved into this apartment, Nirvana only had 1 album out, and that is this album right here, Bleach. And Chad Channing was the drummer on this. Dave Grohl wasn't even in the band yet when Kurt moved in here. But I figured, since I just saw the music up there for the song that Kurt wrote about Tracy Marander, the girl who actually moved Kurt Cobain into this apartment, that we would strum a few chords from the song About a Girl on the Bleach album. Here we go. guitar solo. I gotta stay kind of quiet because there's other neighbors around, so I want to be respectful to them. And I didn't want to sing because I didn't want to end up sounding like the singer from Puddle of Mudd. So there's About a Girl from Bleach about Tracy Miranda, who got this apartment and moved Kurt Cobain in right here. Before I show you the rest of the apartment, first I want to go around back and match up some of the pictures of Kurt and Dave. Now I have permission to be here, but somebody's actually renting out the back apartment. So I want to make sure I'm quiet and respectful so I don't have any problems matching up these pictures back here. There's a pretty famous picture of Kurt and Dave sitting right here. There's the picture of Kurt and Dave. And right about here is the picture of him playing with a cat. And that all happened right here. There's a photo of Kurt standing right on the front of these steps here. You can actually see that building in the background of the shot. We're back checking out the inside of Kurt's apartment. It's pretty small, so the bed is technically in the living room. There's various pieces of art and pictures of Kurt around the property here that I showed you earlier. There's some Nirvana and Kurt Cobain literature. And I call that the Dave Grohl couch over there. And it looks like our host Kelly left us a welcome letter over here. It says, "Welcome to Kurt's Pear Street house. Kurt first moved to Olympia living in this apartment with his girlfriend Tracy. He eventually moved to the one-bedroom apartment in the back after finding new drummer Dave Grohl. This house was featured in the 2013 documentary Sound City, produced by Dave Grohl. This place is featured in 2 books, Heavier Than Heaven and Cobain Unseen. Also, check out Scott on Tape's YouTube videos. We're very big fans of Scott on Tape also, so Scott, whenever you're in the Cleveland area, have your people call my people and we'll get together." And let's see. Oh yeah, and the album Nevermind was written here. Especially the song Smells Like Teen Spirit, which I want to tell that story right now. Of course, everybody knows Nirvana, Nevermind, the first album that Dave Grohl played on. And of course, everybody knows Smells Like Teen Spirit. Now, there's a million other songs I'd rather play than Teen Spirit. But because we're in this apartment, I have to explain how the idea for Smells Like Teen Spirit came up in this very triplex. Now, back when Kurt broke up with Tracy Miranda and he moved Dave in, and they were really good friends with Bikini Kill. And Dave was actually dating Kathleen Hanna, and Kurt was dating drummer Toby Vale, I believe is her name. And earlier in the day, they all went grocery shopping and they were just kind of screwing off and hanging around. And the girls were in the deodorant section and noticed one of the deodorants was called Teen Spirit. And maybe the tagline was smells like Teen Spirit or something, but I'm not sure about that. But anyways, later that night, all four of them got together and they were drinking and kind of like breaking stuff around here and hanging out and having a good old time. But sometime during the night, somewhere in this triplex, Kathleen Hanna took a black marker and wrote on one of these walls, possibly in this room, possibly in the back room, she wrote on the wall, for some reason, Kurt smells like Teen Spirit. And then Kurt woke up the next day and looked up and saw that. And of course, he had no idea it was a woman's deodorant. And he looked at that and he was like, actually sounds pretty good.
So, ended up at Kurt's apartment and I smashed up a bunch of shit. And I took out a Sharpie marker and I wrote a bunch of shit all over his bedroom wall, and it was a rental, so it was like really kind of lame that I did that. So then Kurt's like, well, there's this thing that you wrote on my wall, and it was actually kind of cool, and I want to use it as a lyric in one of my songs. And I was like, as long as I can get out of this conversation and not think about anymore, I'm totally cool. So you can use whatever you want. And then I hung up and I was like, how the f*** is he gonna use Kurt smells like Teen Spirit as a lyric?
And so the whole idea for Teen Spirit came from this: a woman's deodorant.
You and your generation. Teen Spirit, a physical sensation with fragrance is made for you. Teen Spirit, the harder you play, the harder it works. Teen Spirit.
The song of Generation X came from this. And this is hard to find. I'm like, I gotta bring a Teen Spirit deodorant with me to tell this story. So I found one. It wasn't easy. I might just leave it here as a memento for Kelly. I think she'll get a kick out of that. But just because that story is so huge in this apartment, I'm gonna have to strum a few of the notes here. Here we go. You get the bass going. I always like the guitar solo though. You bring that bass back in. So simple, so Pixies. Song of a Generation. Deodorant. There you go, end it. Adenayo, Adenayo, Adenayo. Incredible. Now you can see now that the sun's not blurring in the window, you can see the pictures of him in this kitchen right over here. I gotta turn that on. So there it is, looking nice and new. And that's what it looked like back in the 80s when Kurt lived here. Let's see how the glare looks on these other pictures we looked at earlier. Were kind of glary too, but there's a famous picture I showed you out front in front of the door. There's another picture of him laying in the bed. I love how Kelly has all of the Nirvana literature laid out for everybody. They've got a second guitar, some fan art with Kurt for the Love Buzz single. And we'll have to check out some of these awesome Nirvana books. But I know what you're all thinking. Where did Kurt Cobain go to the bathroom? Alright, we're about to show you right here. There's some more awesome fan art. And here's the sink where Kurt would brush his teeth. Or maybe not. And there we are in Kurt Cobain's bathroom. This is so crazy. I just love that this place inspired like 75% of his music, so keep that in mind. Incredible. And then here's Kurt's porcelain throne. I know you were dying to see it. Now it's been said that Kurt was an animal lover and he had turtles. I heard Dave Grohl talk about when he used to try to sleep on the couch over here. All he could hear was the turtles banging their heads up against the glass all night, so he would never get any sleep. Sorry about that, Dave. But it all worked out for you. Because he probably sat right here and listened to Kurt write songs for Nevermind, In Utero, having no clue that they were about to become the biggest band in the world. And that all started right here. Alright, that's going to do it from Kurt Cobain's Olympia, Washington apartment. Special thanks for Kelly for making this amazing experience. I figured for the end credits, I would just play a couple notes from an album we haven't talked about yet. One of my favorites, In Utero. So I just want to say, until we meet again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Here we go.